Urgent Somsuji Rex, and this is US Navy deploys to stop Houthi attacks in Red Sea. Houthis are like I think in Yemen, right? Yeah, this was like in news, like this is supposed to be like some big event. Like this is like a direct intervention from US Navy in a long time or some shit, which is like might increase instability or something. I don't know what was it, but yeah, this is like a big event if I'm if it like all the news line to go by. Right, shit happens around the world, like wars are happening, but this from the US is like a big thing. I'm guessing. I don't know, like a direct involvement or something. I don't know, but that's why task and purpose is great for things like this, geopolitics and all the events that are happening in the world. Yeah, I like task and purpose because he's fast. Something happening today, he will probably make a video in a less than 24 hours or some shit like that, which is like really interesting, right? There are great channels in YouTube, but they can take a long time, right? Even a month to before tell you what's happening. Task and purpose just like makes a video, so yeah, it's like you know I don't I don't know which news to watch and what not, and just like which will cover great or something like nowadays with all the bullshit going on. So yeah, task and purpose is great to basically cover things. So let's watch it.
The Red Sea right now. To counter Houthi attacks on cargo ships in the Red Sea, the United States announced they've put together an international coalition of 10 nations. What's at stake here? Preventing these Houthi attacks from blockading one of the world's most transited and important shipping lanes for the global economy. The task force includes the United Kingdom, Canada, Italy, who will send guided missile destroyers and aircraft carriers to try to secure the waters off Yemen's coast. This task force has been dubbed...
I don't get it. Why do they need 10 nations? I think US Navy is big enough. I'm guessing like why would we do all the work type of shit rather than like I'm pretty sure they can do it themselves. But they're like, okay, everybody just like pitch in or something.
Operation Prosperity Guardian. But what prosperity is being guardianed? Take a look at the Red Sea behind me. 10% of all oil traded at sea passes through this route, and about $1 trillion in goods annually. 15% of global trade passes through here. That's a lot of prosperity if you ask me. Since November 19, 2023, Houthi factions in Yemen have launched 100 attacks with anti-ship missiles and attack drones aimed at civilian cargo ships. Houthis hijacked the Galaxy Leader, which is an Israeli-linked cargo ship, in a helicopter-borne raid. They still hold the ship and its 25 crew members hostage. Today, we're going to explore why all this blatant tomfoolery is happening, what the US naval response is going to be based on expert opinions, and we'll talk about some of the
Iranian-backed Houthis. Makes sense. They capture the Israeli ship. Okay, so the conflict that's going on right now, obviously Iran being with Gaza, right, would basically like, yeah. So isn't this like might as okay, this indirect because it's like Houthis, not Iranians. So they can like, oh, we have nothing to do with it.
Political factors at play. So the first thing you need to know is the main assets the United States Navy deploys in this region is the Arleigh Burke class destroyer. It's about 155 meters long and displaces 9,700 tons, with heckin' 90 missiles on board. The guided missile cruiser can perform tactical land strikes with Tomahawk cruise missiles, so if they detect Houthi positions on land, they have the power to take them out. The USS Carney, Thomas Hudner, and Mason Arleigh Burke destroyers have already been deployed in the region, and they've intercepted and shot down over 38 munitions fired by Houthis since November. According to former Admiral Stavridis, the US Navy will command the new task force through the existing Task Force 153, which is a counter-piracy flotilla based in Bahrain. This is one of 5 task forces, and it's dedicated to the Red Sea in part. These sailors on these ships have been on high alert, basically under daily attack from drones and missiles for the past month. The USS Laboon destroyer is also joining the team now. The coalition of ships sent are likely going to have a mix of interceptor missiles and Tomahawks if they choose to destroy the Houthi rebel positions on land. Now they also have a 5-inch Mark 45 main gun that fires a 68-pound munition that has a range of about 24 kilometers or 14.
All of the hits, it fires the shell out like that. So basically when that gun fires, you can't be around. Is that it?
Miles. This cannon can be used in different roles though, including anti-ship, anti-air, and naval gunfire support. It has a fire rate of 20 rounds per minute with 680 rounds on ship that can be used for close shore bombardment. According to this open source intelligence report that I found, there are 5 destroyers, an aircraft carrier, and 2 landing ships in the region already. And each of those landing ships has about 1,600 Marine infantry that have all been stuck together at sea, trapped on that ship, and are just dying for.
Seeing the map is insanity, right? Like they're just litter around that like strait. Just right. They're just like, oh, Houthis are attacking every civilian ship, and they're just taking over things. And all these American Western, basically NATO countries, as I said, they're just like, right. Let's just put a destroyer there and just like spreading that. Just we're just looking out for where are the Houthis?
Excuse to go to shore. 5 destroyers, each with 90
Look
missiles,
at
with
that,
some
all of them
average
there.
infantryman math, that's like 450 missiles so far. Another report from @SchizoIntel on Twitter shows NATO submarines and additional vessels are already in the area. All these locations are approximate and purposefully outdated by like a week so as not to break any OPSEC or put anyone in danger, but it gives us an idea of the increasing level of firepower here. You know me, I'm a former US Army infantryman, so I'm biased in favor of Israel and the United States and the West in general. Just putting my cards on the table so you don't feel like I'm hiding the ball when it comes to my perspective here. I can't help but feel some.
Okay, nowadays, like people, I see all the time in my comments, like fake news, like propaganda. It's just like whenever we don't agree with it, it's propaganda. I guess everybody's lying. That's the thing. So this is the world we live in today, where we have to say like I'm biased with this. Like if something is just true, point blank true, like somebody said, like, okay, let's just say like what is more powerful, like West versus like Houthis and Iranian. Like is that even a fight in any case? No, it's not. But is saying that is like biased? Isn't it's really not, is it? Right? So some things are just like objectively true without being biased. So yeah, but yeah, you have to say it nowadays.
Kind of way about all this, you know? I still do my best to present different perspectives here though. We don't know for certain how many more reinforcements will arrive, but what we do have an idea about is how many more they would need to secure this area. Thanks to this informative article written by former Admiral James Stavridis for Bloomberg, I recommend you check it out. I put a link in the description and follow him on Twitter because he's probably the foremost expert when it comes to this mission. He's deployed numerous times as a captain of a guided missile destroyer. He led a carrier strike group in this specific region as a 1-star rear admiral and fought Somali pirates in the 2010s. According to him, he believes this new mission in the Red Sea will be successful so long as they follow basic mission tenets. He points out this region of the Red Sea is massive. It's the size of California, about 1,400 miles, which means even if they sent 20 destroyers, they would have a tough time securing it without good intelligence. This is because it's like trying to cover the entire United States Pacific coast. However, I went and dug up some maps on the actual territory that Houthis control in Yemen. It's about 300 miles of territory along the Red Sea, although it is theoretically possible that they could attack from other locations. And given the max range of their missile systems, which is about 200 to 400 miles,
This is basically trying to root out the people that are local there. Basically, could use something like a guerrilla tactics, and like yeah, it can be hard. Like look at Afghanistan, right? I mean, shit like this, like and it's every time West or any United States somebody trying to like go to Middle East trying to root out things like this, they are not always successful. So I guess you can see like is this going to be success or not? But yeah, I guess you can protect the route at least. I think you can do that, but how long?
this means just about the entire shipping lane does need to be protected. The former admiral points out the mission would benefit from allies joining the task force, like the UAE, who has a nearby port that can support the mission. He points out that working closely with civilian ships is necessary to maximize their limited resources. Private security teams on board could also go a long way in helping to counter Houthi attacks and deter them. But this begs the question, is this mission going to be entirely defensive? Are they just going to be going there and intercepting missiles? Or is it going to have an offensive role as well? Are they going to take the fight to the Houthis? What can we expect when we're expecting? United States security official John Kirby gave some insight into that, stating, quote, "These attacks have to stop. They need to stop. The United States, our allies, and our partners will do what we have to do to counter these threats and to protect these ships." Now, if I were to read in between the lines, it sounds like to me, someone as uncultured as me, that the United States might be preparing to take the fight directly to the Houthis. This lines up with information that the Pentagon has recently moved the CVN-69 Nimitz-class aircraft carrier and its strike group into the Gulf of Aden. The naval commanders were reportedly given options for where to strike Houthi forces, if that decision was made. What that tells me is that there's likely Special Forces operators and JTACs already on.
Yeah, so we already know how powerful aircraft carriers can be, right? It's like a small military in its own, right? There's like a self-sustaining power, everything like massive ammunition, a lot of jets and things like you basically command center. You can do shit from there. So yes, I think I don't know if US would directly get involved. I don't think US people want that since they left Afghanistan. Everybody just like took a shy like oh finally type of shit. I don't think they're ready to get into some shit like that. I don't think so. But yeah, I don't know. They could basically, right? Strategically, they might have to. They might say like, okay, all the wars happening around the world. I guess US has to involve in something like this because if they don't, people will get idea like US is all talk and just soft. They're not gonna do anything type of way. I don't know.
The ground inside Yemen observing Houthi locations right now. Their job would be to help guide air-to-ground bombs from the roughly 65 F-18 Super Hornets that are located on the aircraft carrier nearby. They can surge up to 240 sorties or missions in a single day during non-stop 24-hour emergency conditions. And it's not just me making a wild guess pulling stuff out of my ass here. I'm basing this off the US White House statement to Congress that disclosed special forces are already operating on the ground in Yemen against ISIS terrorists. Just so you know, I'm going to be updating this information. It's a fluid situation, so follow me on Instagram at CappyArmy for those updates. So what kind of capabilities do the Houthis have? The Houthis use two different types of anti-ship ballistic missiles, called the Asef and the Tenkil. The Asef, I believe, is the one that's based on the Iranian Fatah 313 missiles. It has a range of about 450 kilometers or 270 miles. But they probably would have to get closer if they want to be certain to actually hit. Allegedly, this missile uses GPS navigation to track a moving target like a ship. Dozens of their missiles have missed their targets entirely so far, and others have already been intercepted, but it's still concerning that two of the missiles did find their target and did strike ships. This munition has about a 300 kilogram warhead or 660 pounds, which is a large munition certainly capable of downing a ship if it hits the right spot. Houthis also have short-range capabilities in their arsenal. There's the Falak missile, which can hit targets about 140 kilometers away. And according to Odin Yarin in his article, they have an anti-ship homing technology. Part of the capabilities of the coalition warships, though, that are headed to the Red Sea right now include GPS jamming and other countermeasure decoys to fool these kind of Houthi missiles. We don't know for sure how many missiles the Houthis have, but we do know that in 2019, they launched 226 at Saudi Arabia that year, which should give us an idea that they could keep this up into 2024 if they aren't stopped. You might be surprised to learn, Houthis have been attacking ships here since 2015. This isn't anything new. With over 40 incidents where they used Chinese C-802 anti-ship cruise missiles, Houthis also fired at US naval vessels in 2016, and the response back then was firing Tomahawk cruise missiles and hitting 3 Houthi radar command stations. According to Robert Talos, writing for the nationalnews.com, the Houthi missiles are most likely.
Yeah, so I think I remember watching a fucking feed or something like this is a big deal. If this is happening to 2015, why is that a big deal, right? Well, I'm guessing it just increased now, so they're like US said, okay, you know what? Now we have to do something type of way, like call this and shit. That didn't happen before. Like when Trump was around, I guess they did attack, but not at that number like they're doing now. Is that what's happening?
Made inside Iran in separate pieces and then smuggled by boat into Yemen where they're reassembled. Evidence for this comes from a US security briefing in 2020 detailing how the Navy had found missile components headed to Yemen. A Houthi official was quoted as saying, quote, "We have capabilities to sink your fleet, your submarines, your warships. The Red Sea will be your graveyard." But what are the Houthis trying to accomplish here? What's their end game, hypothetically? The Houthis have several possible motivations. First, they want to disrupt the global economy as much as possible. Second, they're likely trying to provoke a response from the United States that could lead to a wider regional war. And third, they want to use the attacks as a way to pressure Israel to suspend its ground offensive in Gaza. According to former Rear Admiral James Stavridis, more likely explanation is that Houthis are probing for weaknesses to set up future attacks by Iran against Western interests. He also points out that the assaults will likely cause oil prices to rise, which will benefit Iran and possibly increase Western pressure on Israel to scale back their campaign in Gaza. Houthi leadership made a statement on December 9th, and here's their quote. They said, "If Gaza does not receive the food and medicine it needs, all ships in the Red Sea bound for Israel ports, regardless of nationality, will become a target for our armed forces." Evidence shows it's not just Israeli linked.
Wait a minute. So, like, food and water is like cut off right now from Gaza. Like, I get it. Like, okay, Hamas and everything, but not everybody's Hamas in Gaza. Come on, man. Like, humanitarian effort like that. That's just fucked up, right? uh, Look, I don't know like elements like how it all works, right? People can claim that, but yeah, like Hamas is like deep into like civilian population. It's really hard to know who's Hamas and who's not, but that doesn't mean like you can attack everyone, like cutting off food and supply. There are kids there, just like normal people there. Come on. So that is like one thing where I don't know, like doctors without borders and shit like that. I'm pretty sure like that was like working. I don't remember exactly, but I'm guessing that was the case. I'm guessing some organizations are also going to try and protect food and water, but still, like, come on, that's just like strong.
Ships, though. So far, 100 cargo ships have been rerouted. The 12 vessels attacked are linked to over 35 different countries around the world. Here's a graphic that I think does a good job of showing the different locations and timeline of the escalation of Houthi attacks over the past month by Damian Simon on Twitter. This is the Bab el Mandab Strait, and it's the most narrow point. It's only 18 miles or like 29 kilometers wide. What that means, it's basically like your local two-way suburban street that you drive down instead of a 6-lane superhighway. 18 miles might sound like a lot, but for massive cargo ships that can weigh up to 100,000 tons, there's only 2 channels for inbound and outbound traffic. In military terms, this is a choke point or a fatal funnel. It makes your path predictable and therefore easier to target with anti-ship cruise missiles. The strait is located right next to Yemen. This vulnerability is why 5 of the world's top shipping companies have decided to take the longer route all the way around Africa and say see you later bye to that. Once these companies announced they would stop risking going through here, traffic through the Red Sea has now dropped by 35% at least, and cost of insuring ships and cargo has doubled for those willing to venture through. Those costs are kindly passed on to, you guessed it, you and me when we purchase things. The reason this hasn't made front page news in the United States yet is likely because many of the ships can still make it to their destination, just takes longer and costs more, and no one has yet been killed. If this continues and the attacks aren't stopped, you're going to see gas prices skyrocket and consumer good prices go up as well. But the main countries hurting here is going to be Egypt, who they have 1/4 of their whole economy depends on the transit fees that they earn through the Suez Canal. 15% of Europe's imported goods sail through here as well. The Houthis claim to be doing this to put pressure on Israel's economy, which relies on seaborne trade. Part of the reason this is kind of a perfect storm, though, right now, is because another shipping lane is in trouble at the same time. A drought in Panama has meant that the Panama Canal doesn't have enough water, which means they've had to cut the number of ships they let through. When it rains, it pours, or that's a bad analogy. The Houthi rebels are backed by Iranian funding and weapon shipments, although Iran publicly denies this. If you ask me, personally, just my personal thoughts, I think Iran has learned over the decades that having plausible deniability is important. Because when the Iranian Navy planted sea mines in the Gulf of Aden to disrupt free navigation in the 1980s, and they hit a US frigate, the US Navy responded by destroying half of Iran's navy in Operation Praying Mantis. So if you ask me, Iran learned to use the Houthi rebels to take.
I remember that. That was an insane video from Friday Tuesday I watched. Iran was like flexing at that point, like, yeah, we can do anything. We have power on our side, like not against US. Come on, that was stupidity, right? A lot of things. I don't know what was played there. Was that religious beliefs that were played there or whatever? But yeah, they were way too strong in their thinking. They can just take on US. Like, yeah, no, you can't. They're not gonna do that now. They're gonna indirectly do shit like this. Obviously, the politics involved here is because of like Gaza and Israel conflict. So yeah, Iran is gonna basically use Houthi attacks to like pressurize US and everybody. They're basically trying to pressure US in a place where they might struck a deal with Israel or something, like let's just call ceasefire or chill out with Gaza attacks, right? So they know like only country that can do that is US. Only people who can like make sure that everybody's on the table and agree with good terms is like US is the only one that can do that. And if the US economy suffers, that is the only way US will even think about that. So I guess that's why they're doing that. So element makes sense, but I don't know how long they can do that, right? If US is just gonna send like their carriers and coalition of country, like no. And I'm pretty sure like logistics wise, US can just stay there for multiple years if need be.
The heat for them this time. Although I should tell you that others claim the Houthis are acting under their own agency. So who is the Houthi movement? They're also known as Ansar Allah, or Supporters of God. They're a Shia faction inside the Yemen civil war. In 2021, the Biden administration took the Houthi faction off the foreign terrorist organization list. They stated their reason for doing this was to ease tensions and help end the war there. But after the attacks,
Really, they attack your ship from 2015 and shit, and you just take them off your terrorist list so they can chill out. Like, there's so much. Where's integrity in that? Like, no, that's yeah, if anything, like you're showing them like, okay, if you pressure them enough, they'll basically treat you well. So that is the only way to get answers type of shit.
on civilian cargo ships, there's now increased pressure to return the group back to the terror list. During the Yemen civil war, the Houthis gained control over the Al Hudaydah port in
They're attacking your civilian ship, not your military ship. If that's not terror, what is terror?
a major. We're going to have to wait to see how effective US naval power will be, how large the coalition grows, and what effect the Israeli campaign in Gaza will have on all this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If Trump comes right next election, which I don't know if he will or not, you can have all opinions about Trump, right? And I'm not the guy who like supports Trump or something like that, but it doesn't matter what I support. But I can see Trump being aggressive here. So Trump is the kind of people who like, you know what, fuck it, just put the, put the increase the pressure, even attack them, right? Let's go all in type of way. I can see him doing that, right? The problem with look, US in past multiple decades, half a century or more than that, is like attempted to be world police. Let's just say it's the simplest way I can say it. And when times like this, if they're like, okay, you know what, we're gonna chill out, we're gonna take you off from terrorist lists, right? Just like back away and take steps like really like carefully and slowly that way. Yeah, the message they send in the world, like, yeah, okay, US is just all talk and weak in a way, right? US can't police shit when we can just attack things. So that will just increase instability around the world, right? If US policy was always like we're not going to intervene, that would have been a different case, but that's not their policy for past 50 plus years. They get involved in every global politics. So everybody just see USA like, okay, let's poke them and see what happens. If they don't respond well, yeah, that's a bad message. I don't know. Right, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.